Come satisfy your appetite for wealth with baking profits. Now, here's your hosts, Mike and Brad.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another week of Baking Profits. We're your hosts, Mike, aka DeFi Donut.
And I'm Brad, aka the Bread Maker.
And today we're going to dive deep into the world of NFTs, taking a look at the past, the present, and the future. And if you'd like to, you can follow the crumbs on our socials at Baking Profits, at Bread Bites, at The Bread Maker, at DeFi Donut.
And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, and tonight we are drinking something that's very close to our home. Not exactly my favorite, but somewhat decent.
It's all right.
And this is Luckenbach Road Whiskey. And if you've ever heard the song by Waylon Jennings, Luckenbach, Texas, this is the exact same place.
Yeah, we actually just had like a little Bread Bites trip here with me, you, and Alexa, and our significant others, and we got a chance to tour the distillery, which, I mean, the distillery was about as underwhelming as this freaking whiskey is, in my opinion. I thought I've been to a bunch of distilleries, and that was pretty underwhelming. The drinks were underwhelming. The scenery was underwhelming. This whiskey is underwhelming. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I wouldn't pick it up again unless it was at a party I was at or something like that.
Yes, I think it was a apple pie, old fashioned, something along those lines.
Oh, at the distillery?
Yes.
I had like some Hill Country lemonade or something like that. It was basically that with like off-brand lemonade. It was terrible.
The guy poured heavy though.
He did pour heavy, yeah. But
it was nice.
It was overall not the best experience.
But nonetheless, we have almost killed the entire bottle yet again.
Yeah, I guess that's our new thing now. That's 3 episodes in a row. We're just going to get hammered before the episode rather than get hammered during the episode, which, I mean, last few episodes turned out pretty good. So, I mean, I'm cool with it.
Made for valuable content, to say the least.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll dive right into it. I know that, a big topic, especially in crypto, and especially with people who are unfamiliar with crypto, are NFTs. And I know when I'm talking to people who aren't familiar with DeFi or crypto in general, they always bring up NFTs. And I think they bring it up for that, like, this is a stupid conception. And I bring up some valid points that we'll talk about in this episode, but at the end of the day, it still has that stigma on it. And so I think this will be a good topic for tonight. But we really want to start with just how NFTs have evolved over time. And I know, like, going back to my childhood, I was big on trading baseball cards. I was too early for Pokemon cards, but Magic the Gathering was getting really popular. And for me, and I know I've told you this since the beginning, of our crypto journey, is like, these have always felt like trading cards to me and less anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I also was very big on trading cards, specifically sports-based, baseball cards, football cards, all the different sports. I had basketball cards, all those kind of different trading cards. I would go to the store and get them. And I mean, NFTs do have a similar feel to it in the digital sense. I know for me, I feel like personally, I'm going to be pretty pessimistic about NFTs throughout this episode. I mean, at least like, I know we talked about, we're going to cover the past, the present, and the future. And in my opinion, the past and the present, I'm going to be very pessimistic about. The future, I feel like there are some opportunities there where, NFTs could be a big player in the space. But, past and present, I'm like, seems like just about everybody loses money on them, including myself. So I don't really mess with the NFTs too much these days.
Well, I think that they started out as just pieces of art, and companies realize, like, we can't just release art. We have to release some sort of, it has to have some sort of added value. And the cheapest way to do that was like digital trading card games. I know one of the first games that were created with NFTs in general were Spells of Genesis, which is where that Satoshi card came in, where people were looking at the clues like, oh, who could this be? But these cards, they had the feel of Magic the Gathering. There was really no purpose. It wasn't really, they advertised it as a game, but to my understanding is that each of the card, it had no value to the game. It was more of a trading game than an actual playable game. So I think it was a good first step to show like, hey, NFTs just aren't pieces of art, but it can also be used as other things. And I think it helped pave the way for gamification. But in terms of art, I mean, I know that really in the beginning, there was an artist, his name was Beeple, and Beeple, he used to release an art piece a day. And he kind of got into the NFT scene a little bit early. And what he did for the community of NFTs is his NFT was sold at the first NFT to be sold at a major auction house, and it sold for $69 million.
That's wild.
It is wild, and I don't understand that at all. I think it has to do more with just him. It's sort of like a Banksy thing. Somebody bought his painting and then it was lit on fire, and they're like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it was sold, and Beeple continues to make his products, I guess you could say. But yeah, I think a lot of people realized pretty early on, like, oh snap, I can get paid for my art. And I think it gave artists another avenue to make money in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that aspect of the things. I also do think from an artist standpoint, not from a traditional art standpoint, but from a music standpoint, I also think we're seeing a lot of artists realize that they can generate higher volume and higher dollar figures through releasing their music and things like that through NFTs, which, I think that's a viable option. I'm not going to, shit on that parade. I think that's, a good way for people to, make money. If you're good at something and you're able to sell it for a higher dollar figure than you would be able to sell it in another place, like, more power to you, in my opinion. But I just think in general, the NFT scene is, it's just a really challenging place for the average Joe to make money. If you're an artist, whether that's music or actual art based, I think it's great for you. And there's a platform, there's a new platform and a new avenue for you to generate revenue. And generally, more than likely, it's probably gonna be a higher dollar figure of revenue because you're gonna be able to sell your product for higher. You're also gonna be able to get secondary sales off of resale value and things like that, which you may not traditionally receive in a physical format. But at the end of the day, I do think, I was telling you about these, rocks that were, what was like 2017, I think. It was basically clip arts images of different shades of gray rock. And these things were selling for like $300,000 in the last like year or two. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff that I just really can't get behind, because it's like, I think that was either the first NFT or one of the first NFTs or one of the first ones to be big. And I think it, officially launched in like 2017. So it was a long time ago, and it really caught fire, 1 to 2 years ago, really big time. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm not as, big on, or don't really see the vision from. But this stuff of like supporting artists that actually are, working hard on building their content and stuff like that, and being able to sell it in a new form factor, I'm definitely supportive of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I know I've seen a few artists, they've released their albums as NFTs, and it's like, okay, if you were one of the lucky few to be able to get the NFT, you got some exclusive content that was supposedly only delivered to people with NFT. Obviously, it was pirated and people were able to hear it, but I'm like, that's pretty cool. That gives some value to it from the, straight from the artist, hand, although it was probably more of a, label decision to be made. But I can definitely get behind that, because as a user, it's like, okay, maybe I'm waiting to mint this. Maybe I pay, because I know, at least the example that I'm thinking of, the NFT was the same cost as the digital album. It was just like a whole gimmick to get people to like get hype over the NFT.
Right.
And I assume most of those people who bought the album and then ended up buying the NFT as well. So it's a good play on the artist's point of view. But
plus, they don't really, from my understanding on the streaming aspects of things, artists are getting pretty effed on like streaming on like Spotify and stuff. They're barely getting any money off of those deals, even if they get tons of people to stream their content. So people are paying a monthly fee for like a Spotify or one of these other music, Pandora or whatnot, and then they're playing these, albums for free or whatever, essentially free.
Yeah.
And then the royalty kickback is pretty low on the artist side. So if they're able to recoup or at least charge a full price, almost like a user going to a physical store and getting a CD, then they're able to offer exclusive perks and things like that through an NFT. I'm all for that.
I mean, I wonder though if like some of these artists, if they're actually making the money on it or if it's the label.
Well, I was wondering the same thing. I'm kind of thinking just in general from a crypto side of getting paid in crypto through NFTs. Like, how is a label or an artist, like, what are they doing with this money? Like, are they divvying it up? Are they paying people out in crypto? Are they withdrawing all of it? Are they going to get hit with a massive income tax at the end of the year? I run through all of those scenarios in my head of like, okay, if I'm an artist, music artist, or a physical like painting artist, like, once I'm getting paid, like what am I doing with those funds? I'd be curious to like talk to somebody that is in that space and is an artist or music artist or something like that, and be like, what do you do once you've sold, I don't know, $100,000 worth of this NFTs and you got it sitting in Ethereum or something like that? Like, what are you doing with it? I'd be just out of curiosity. I don't really know where that money flow goes.
Yeah. I mean, I assume a lot of, especially the early people who sold their Bored Ape Yacht Clubs for, millions, or CryptoPunks or whatever, any of these, insane values that were paid out for these NFTs. I'm assuming those people will just recognize, like, I just got paid a lot of money and they were just happy to eat the tax. But that's a good point, man. There's a lot of money that is generated. I mean, if you want to say that, everybody paid taxes for that, that's money in the government's hand from nothing.
Yeah. I was already thinking, I'm like, I feel like over the next like 3 to 5 years, we're going to hear a lot of tax evasion, freaking arrest and stuff like that from the NFT side of things. So I'm sure a lot of people who didn't report it or, were like, oh, well, TurboTax didn't tell me to report my NFTs, so I didn't do it. So
yeah,
that's going to be very interesting over the next, or especially from like a, like a celebrity standpoint, the celebrities that got into that kind of stuff. I'm going to be interested to see what the tax laws are going to look like and what they're going to get hit with or not hit with over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I know in 2017, CryptoPunks comes out and you have celebrities that started to endorse it. I know that Jay-Z purchased a CryptoPunk and he made that his social media, profile pic. And of course, Bieber, the Paul brothers, like all of them actively kind of like push this movement forward a bit. And I think, there's so many more celebrities that did as well, but it almost validated the assets. Now, I think what gave a lot of people some, because I remember this announcement happening, but I really wasn't into NFTs. But when Visa bought a CryptoPunk, they announced that they really wanted to understand the product and they wanted to, they looked at it less as an investment, but more as an educational opportunity. And at some point, because I think they paid, it was less than $200,000 for the CryptoPunk, that during the peak of the latest bullish market, that was valued over $1 million. And I mean, for Visa, that's a hell of a great little...
Yeah, that's a good value right there.
Exactly.
Good value buy.
But did they sell? Probably not. Although maybe they did. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. But I do know that, like, you have these celebrities, they're basically pushing these NFTs and they're making them cool. And they're making sort of like a fashion statement that it's like, hey, if you have, this is your profile picture, you have something that is one for one, absolutely unique, something that Jay-Z has. It's like, it felt good. And I think that's what, gave people the, like, I gotta have it mentality. And especially in the early crypto days when people were making millions, like basically early crypto turned a lot of average Joes into multimillionaires overnight who were just holding Bitcoin, and they couldn't off ramp their money. It was stuck in crypto. They're like, what am I going to do? It's fake monopoly money. I'll just spend all this money on a CryptoPunk.
Yeah. I mean, there's two sides to that, in my opinion. Well, there's a side that you're talking about of like how the celebrities made it, big and a little bit more mainstream and got more people into it. But then there's the other side of it where, nowadays I feel like if you bring up NFTs, the first thing that comes out of somebody's mouth that doesn't know a ton about it is like, oh, you're just spending $100,000 on a monkey picture. That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
And it's like, the problem is, it's almost like Bored Ape Yacht Club and like CryptoPunks have gotten so big and mainstream. It's just like, that's the label of NFTs, which, I mean, for me personally, like I've said, like from the past and the present side of NFTs, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with someone of like being like, oh, you're just going to spend a bunch of money on a stupid JPEG. Yeah. I'm like, I mean, it's kind of true. The chances of you making money off of whatever you're minting, pretty slim for the most part from what we've seen from NFTs over the past couple of years. Chances of you making money is pretty slim. But in the future, I mean, I think they don't understand what the technology is and what the adoption is. And, we'll probably talk about that a little bit later in the episode. But, I think there's two sides of that coin of like, the celebrities and everybody that bought into these, major projects like CryptoPunks and like Bored Ape Yacht Club. Yes, they gave it notoriety. Yes, they gave it a brand and made it, build it up. But they also, on the other side of it, the average Joe that maybe isn't deep in NFTs or deep in crypto, NFTs has basically gotten this like stigma of like, oh, you're just paying a bunch of money for a monkey picture. And that's pretty much what most people, I think, categorize NFTs as at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like that with the average Joe for sure. I think so. I think the future, though, as we find these major companies releasing virtual reality goggles and we move towards a more of a digital, future, I kind of think some of these OG projects like CryptoPunks, like Bored Ape, Crypto Kitties, they're going to hold value. I think there's been so many NFT projects that have come up and have had no value or lose it very quickly on the hopes that it's going to be the next Bored Ape or CryptoPunk or whatever. But I think as we go, think about 100 years from now, when you look at baseball cards, for example, we had a baseball card bubble. Any baseball card in the 90s, virtually worthless, probably early 2000s as well, maybe even beyond.
Yeah.
Even in the 80s, I would arguably say it's worthless. But if you have baseball cards from the 50s, even after the bubbles bursted, those cards hold a value. And they held value, pretty much consistently, even through the downturns. And I think we're going to see the same thing with these NFTs, where it makes it very difficult to enter into that game right now is like, you have to have that type of like arrogance to say like this, image is going to hold value. And the only people who have that type of arrogance are people who have had everything handed to them or have exorbitant amount of money. The average Joe is not going to be like, what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a home equity loan out of my house and I'm going to buy 2 CryptoPunks. That takes balls of steel and you be an idiot to do that.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's a terrible move. I mean, I get what you're saying in a way, but then at the other side, I'm just like, in my opinion, the odds for the average person are just so slim. Like I'm thinking for myself, I mean, most of the cards that I got were like late 1990s, early 2000s. In terms of like baseball cards and football cards and stuff like that. And I mean, I had and have some, I still have pretty much all my cards, and I've gone through and looked them up here and there. And I mean, I think some of the most valued cards I have are at like $50 a card, and that's like, I got Peyton Manning rookie cards and big time players that back in the day, Albert Pujols, Barry Bonds, stuff like that. I've got their rookie cards and things like that, and they're really not worth that much money. Yeah. But there's specific subsets of those cards that are worth big money. Like certain Tom Brady rookie cards or jersey cards where it's a piece of their jersey or a signed card. Certain ones do have massive value, but 99.5% of them pretty much worthless. Or, you're getting $20 for a car that you've had for 25 years. And it's like, at that point, it doesn't become worth it. Like, I might have paid $3 for this pack of cards, 20 years ago, and now I can sell one of the cards for $50. It's like, okay, but it's not like I have 150 or 1,000 of that same exact card that I can sell multiple times. Now I'm like, okay, this is really worth it. I could sell one of those cards for, 10 or 15x their value, which is still pretty much pennies. So I feel similarly to NFTs. So while I kind of think you have a good point with like, Bored Ape Yacht Club and, CryptoPunks maybe holding their value over the long term, what, like, thinking right now, like, I mean, Bored Ape Yacht Club, I think they've dropped like 70, 80, 90% on some of the Bored Apes from what they were the highs of 2021. And I'm like, I would still never buy that right now. No. Even if I had the money, some of them are probably $50, $75, $100,000 on the low end. And even if I had the money to spend on that, I'm not spending that thinking, 20 years from now, it's going to be worth $1 million. Like, I just don't have the vote of confidence to think like I can buy this and it's going to make money over the long term. I still am not, I can't get myself to that level yet. And then all the other projects, pretty much the rest of it is all trash. It's all going to lose 99% of its value over the next, 12, 16, 18, 24 months.
Yeah. A couple of things. One, 89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. Your boys got it. Pulled it from a pack. Legit as fuck.
How much is that worth?
Probably not much.
$27.50.
I actually think it's about $80 or so. I don't know. I looked it up a few years ago, but this thing used to be hundreds. It was very rare.
Yeah.
King Griffey Jr. was my man, man. I had every single card of his. I still have a binder of it, but
I got a handful of his. I got a couple of like ones where it's got the like a piece of
Jersey.
his bat.
Oh, bat.
I got a bat. Yeah, a couple of bat ones, but I haven't looked those up in a long time. But my guess is they're probably like $25.
Yeah, essentially is. But I think when it comes to the NFTs, though, it's like that special club, right? Like especially with, a CryptoPunks, they release this whole line of NFTs and then they never do anything else. And when I really don't know much about CryptoPunks other than that these creators were like, we wanted to stand up against the man. And I don't think that they ever remotely had like, oh, this is about to explode. I think that they know that there is a shit ton of value. And if they ever do anything else with CryptoPunks, it devalues the brand immediately. And so I think that they're kind of pigeonholed. They can't do anything. Maybe they've done stuff, with other companies, but CryptoPunks will always be CryptoPunks. And if you have celebrities that maybe we go into a digital world and it's like, hey, I can go to Jay-Z's house in fucking Decentraland. And I go into Jay-Z's house and I'm in his living room and there's just this fucking nice, beautiful couch and right above it, fucking massive ass CryptoPunk. I think right now sounds silly. It's like, who cares? Sounds like video games, The Sims, but I think Gen Z, I think Gen Alpha, and the generations to come who have these digital presence, they're going to be like, fuck, he's got a CryptoPunk? My God, this dude is elite. It's like,
yeah,
it's going to hold some sort of status-like value there, but whether that holds true monetarily wise, who knows? In my mind, I find it hard to believe that these, NFTs sell for millions. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think from what you're saying with CryptoPunks, yes, I think they maybe went about it the right way in terms of like, hey, we have one series and that's it. And they were one of the first to market, early adopters of it. So I think that's great. I think in my opinion, that's where Bored Apes may have misstepped, is they have all kinds of stuff. They've got the Bored Apes, and then they got the Mutant Apes, and then they got the Mutant Serum, and then they've got the dogs, and then they've got the land. And I'm just like, it's so much. I feel like every time they release something new, they're just diluting.
I like it.
I'm just basically proving your point about the CryptoPunks. It's like, dude, if they had Bored Apes and that was it and there was nothing else, the exclusivity factor of it goes up. I think, in my opinion, if they didn't have Mutant Apes, if they didn't have the dogs, if they didn't have the land, if they didn't have all this other stuff, I think that the originals, the OGs of the Bored Apes, would be valued higher. Now, you can say, the holders of it are making more money because, you know, those that held a Bored Ape got a Mutant Ape and they got the serum and then, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of are able to kind of roll that into additional revenue for themselves. But I think in general, if they had just done Bored Apes and that was it, and there was nothing else, you know, I believe that those Bored Apes will be higher value than what they currently are.
In my opinion, I think Yuga Labs recognized pretty early on that CryptoPunks is what it is. Like, if you want to make a one and done, they did that. And I think that they realized that, look, like, we got to do something different. And so what do? They reward people for holding their version of CryptoPunks, which is the initial OG Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. And by holding that, it's like, hey, you know what, guys, we think you should hold this. It keeps the value up because people aren't selling it. And as soon as the mutants came, people were like, oh shit, if you hold this, you get something else. And then the mutants took off and sold for a lot of money. So of course that added far more valuable, you know, or value to the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I think if they hadn't done that, I mean, they might have been something, but I don't think they would have been what they are right now.
Yeah, but you got to think, like, most of those people, if they had an OG Bored Ape, you know, I don't think Mutant Apes put Bored Apes on the map. I think it was just NFTs in general, the explosion of it and the adoption of it and the interest in it. So I'm like, if they didn't have that, then, and it was just Bored Apes only, and that was the only way for you to get in to the Bored Ape Yacht Club was to buy a Bored Ape, in my opinion, the value of that goes up exponentially. I mean, yeah, I think, dude, like, the Bored Apes are at X price. A lower price version of entry, a barrier of entry, is the Mutant Apes. A lower, you know, barrier of entry from that is the dogs, and a lower barrier entry of the dogs is the land. So it's like every iteration that they've done since then has done essentially worse in terms of value after the fact. In my opinion, it's almost like creating a movie that is like a great badass movie, and then you create a sequel and it's not quite as good, and then you create a third movie and it's not quite as good as a sequel, and then it's just like you're kind of like just going down this downhill trend where everything that you produce after the original, the OG, is worse, and it's worse in value, it's a worse product, and it's just kind of like almost devalues the whole brand as a whole. I'm not a big movie buff, so I can't really sit here and provide like a movie that was an OG badass movie and then they created a sequel and it was way shittier.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, that's a good one right there.
Damn it,
Every
son.
movie after the first one was trash and more trash and more trash and more trash and more trash. And it's like, it almost devalues the entire brand as a whole by having shittier and shittier movies or versions, in this case of NFTs that come out. You're essentially devaluing your own brand by making versions that are less and less valuable and less interesting.
Okay, yes, but who makes money off of those movies, right? Who makes money off of the Bored Apes? It's first off, Yuga Labs is making shitloads of money off of mutants. So everything you described is great for Yuga. Everything you described is also great for the NFT holder. Where does it get, like, it doesn't matter, like, for example, using Fast and Furious as an example, yes, the first movie was shit, but they've made essentially 11 movies, including that Luke and Hobbs movie or whatever. And I'm like, that's a fuckload of movies. They're making bank.
True.
And they're making, the actors are making shitloads of money. Everybody involved, all the people from the catering companies to the freaking director, everybody's making movies. And there's a reason, because people are still showing up.
I mean, I guess that the movie side of things may be actually a bad example, because I'm thinking about it and it's like, okay, if you only made Fast and the Furious and there was only ever one of those, I mean, yes, it would probably have like a cult following a little bit, but they're not really going to consistently make more money off of that movie. And probably the same for Yuga Labs in a similar way. Obviously, they're not going to make as much money as they made by not releasing another product. But the user that's holding the NFT, in my opinion, Bored Apes will be valued higher than what they're currently valued, because there's no secondary products. And the only way to get into Bored Ape is you got to pay that high barrier of entry. Whereas right now, maybe I'm like, you know what? I want to be a part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, but I can't afford $50,000 or $75,000 for this product or whatever. I'm going to buy one of these dogs for like $1,000 or $2,000. Or I could be like, you know what? I'm going to buy a Mutant Ape. I think they're like $8,000 to $10,000 right now to get in minimum. And maybe you have a little bit more money and you want to in between. Like, you have the ability to get in at a lower entry but not have an actual Bored Ape, but at least be part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club community. Whereas I think if those products didn't exist, I think the barrier to entry of just Bored Apes in general would be higher.
I disagree for many reasons, but the main one is like, look, they had CryptoPunks, CryptoKitties, they had that Pepe NFT series. All of those had no secondary utility whatsoever. It was a one and done. If Bored Ape had done a one and done and just created their first line and stopped, they would just be like all the rest of them. I don't know if Bored Ape Yacht Club was the first to do, hold this, you get this, but they were definitely the first to, make it so popular. And I think that is why, because people, the average person who was like an NFT investor, not a non-celebrity or a non-person who had a bunch of money, was like, I just like this as a PFP. I think that they were buying these because they're like, look, I'm going to get these drops. I'm going to get the mutant. It makes sense for them to have the land. The reason why I like this is they can, and I haven't really studied, Bored Ape very much, but imagine like you hold the land, you create ooze. You take that ooze, you can create mutants. You get a special ooze, you can create dogs. And it's like you're generating income. All the original people who had the Bored Apes are generating income. They didn't know what the secondary market was going to be. Obviously, the first person who put the mutant up for sale had no clue that it was going to be as successful as what it was. Because I think it sold for hundreds, and not thousands.
For sure, yeah.
So
they got up pretty high. Mutants got up pretty high for a little while. I think they were, the floor at one point was like 25, 30, 40K at one point in time. So it was pretty.
God, for real?
I remember I was looking at them, which I'm glad I didn't do it ultimately, but I remember I was looking at one probably about a year ago now, and it was $18,000.
Oh my God.
And I honestly, I don't really remember. I don't know what the floor is right now. I think it's like 8 to 10K. Could be wrong on that. But I remember I was thinking about buying one at 18K, which I will say whenever I was looking at buying it, I watched it for a while, and the floor went from like 18K to like 28K, and then it's been on a steady decline over the past like 6 to 12 months. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't make that investment, which, like I said, I'm like in general NFTs, I'm just like, I'm good. I'm not going to buy. I mean, I don't really own any. I've owned a couple of NFTs that I bought 2 years ago that I'm still sitting on, losing money on, but just kind of holding just because I got nothing else to do with it. But overall, I'm like, the chances of me making money on NFTs, slim to none.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I like how, so speaking of like the timeline aspects of things and like how it goes from, CryptoPunks, which is just a picture. We kind of skipped ahead and talked about Bored Ape, but in between there was a very popular game that brought in the gamification aspect of NFTs, and that was Axie Infinity. And what was really unique about this game is it introduced the concept of like play to earn. Essentially, you can go out and farm this rare mob that's going to drop a item that is an NFT, and you can then sell that, or you can farm the in-game token or whatever. The problem is it was the NFTs didn't really have value and the tokens didn't really have value, and I think it was a great concept, and I think it showed everybody like what NFTs could become. I actually have never played the game. I'm assuming it's
probably trash-ish.
It's probably like playing like one of those free Facebook games is what what I assume.
Probably.
I remember my dad would always be like, yeah, I'm hooked on this game. And I'd look at it and be like, what the fuck?
I don't know if you remember playing pre-Facebook. There was this games called, I think they were like Miniclip. It's like miniclip.com or whatever. They were like Flash games.
Like the stick figure guy with the guns.
Yeah, or like they had like 8-ball pool games and like, I mean, they had these like little like slot car racing games and stuff like that. Like a bow and arrow game where you were like a stick figure and you had to like shoot a bow and arrow and hit the other person on the other side. That's what I think of when I think of NFT games. Pretty much is like I think of those old school like mini clip Flash games that are on a computer that looks like some like 8-year-old built it in like 10 minutes.
I mean, I think there's I don't know what that game looked like, but I have seen some NFT games and it's like shocking what it appears to be.
Terrible.
But I think, and I know we've mentioned this in a a previous episode, but I think there's a lot of potential here with NFT gamification. And my biggest thing is like, in Decentraland kind of introduced this concept where it's like everything in Decentraland was tradable. Essentially, it's an NFT, whether it's, a cupboard that you own or a house or land or whatever. And I think of a game in the same sense. It's like every piece of loot could theoretically be an NFT. It's like if you get 1,000 bronze swords that drop from a common mob, and that's 1,000 special NFTs, maybe you combine those into a very unique NFT. And it's like the possibilities really are somewhat endless. And I think it allows more of a, I don't know. It just allows people to play a secondary game within a game. It's like, I'm farming this special item because I need to get 1,000 of this or 100 of these, or maybe I'm farming this mob because once every 100 times it drops this very unique NFT that I've seen sells for $500,000 because it's a Bored Ape. It's got like a piece of armor with a Bored Ape logo on it. Like there could be partnerships amongst all of these companies, and I think we're going to see it. I think that, if you and I are thinking of these concepts, Blizzard and all of these game companies that have been, no pun intended, been in the game for a long time, they have to be thinking of these concepts and they have to be thinking of these partnerships and these ideas. But my biggest thing is like when I think about a World of Warcraft or an MMORPG, and it's like, 100 people are fighting this mob together, and it's like, boom, you get this super epic sword, and it can be a very unique NFT. And the next time that dragon is killed, it could drop the same sword, but different stats. And it's like, that to me it introduced a little bit of a pay to earn, because you'll be, a pay to play, because you'll be able to sell that NFT to somebody who has money. It's like, yeah, I want the best gear right at the beginning. Well, you can buy NFTs, you can buy NFT equipment, you can buy swords, whatever. But also the people who play the game, it almost becomes their job. It's like their entire job is just like, I play Axie Infinity. That's my job. And they're like, oh shit, what do you do? Oh yeah, I'm a bard on there. You're going to see people with like resumes that talk about playing games in a virtual world, because this is going to eventually create an entire virtual economy. We saw it with games like World of Warcraft, how much value the in-game currency brought. It's only natural. Like that's pretty much the same concept as cryptocurrencies.
Pretty much.
And now we're going to have NFTs included. So in my mind, I think the best thing to NFTs that ever happened was Decentraland, because that is the true first utility, in my opinion, to NFTs. It's no longer art. It's like got actual real purpose. The purpose at the time wasn't as valuable as what it could have been, but it set the playing field.
Yeah, this is where I can get behind NFTs a little bit more, is the gamification of it, and kind of like you said, is like the World of Warcrafts and the games like that have special drops and armor and different things, and all that kind of stuff can really make NFTs be a big deal. You got to think about it like from a World of Warcraft standpoint. You can go on eBay and buy like gold for World of Warcraft to be able to spend money on, XYZ thing, or you can buy characters from other people's accounts that they've built up and had special armor and stuff like that. And it's more or less an NFT. It's not an NFT because it's not decentralized, but it's a centralized version of an NFT essentially that you're buying. And so like it already exists to an extent, but it's not built into the actual application. And I think that's where, that's ultimately going to come in. I would assume, if I'm Activision or Blizzard, I am like all in on this idea because one, it's a massive moneymaker for them, huge moneymaker for them. They could offer a World of Warcraft where it's free to play essentially, but it's microtransactions out the ass, and all the microtransactions are NFTs, and then they're getting money and royalties off the secondary sales of all these items. They would make insane amounts of money off of this.
Tons.
And then I think I'm pretty sure they own, I don't know if you ever played Destiny, It's a shooter. Yeah, and that very similar fashion. They have all kinds of drops, and they have different levels that you play and stuff like that, and you can get different armors and upgrade your person and all that stuff. You can play online, you can play single player, campaign, all that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty sure Activision owns Destiny and Destiny 2, and I mean that's a really popular franchise as well. And I'm like, that's an easy console game right there that could be NFT based. I mean, it's already free to play, but essentially, and you can download the game and play it, and and then you can just pay your way through, or grind your way through it however you want to do it. And that's another one where I'm just like, that shit would make bank as an NFT.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, I think the biggest challenge that they have right now, the biggest hurdle is like the incorporation of it, and then also the adoption of it. Like crypto is still fairly small, and then when you get to the decentralized side of crypto, it's way smaller. And so how do they, if they offered that out to the mainstream right now, it would be a fucking flop. Like in my opinion, I think it would be a flop, because the average, unless they have a very easy way for the average user to be able to transact, I don't know how that would really be all that successful, unless they put it, I guess they could put it alongside an existing version that's non crypto based. I don't really know, but in my opinion, the challenge that they have right now is barrier to entry in terms of decentralization, and then just in general especially on the US side. It's like, I mean, US got crypto locked down like a mofo, so it's like, how does the average person, if they don't know anything about NFTs or anything about crypto, be able to play a Destiny 2 or a World of Warcraft and interact with NFTs and do all the stuff that they need to do to be able to play the game properly, and be able to do all that very easily. And that's, in my opinion, I think that's the biggest hang up right now. In my opinion, if I was sitting in a room with, Blizzard executives and Activision executives, I think that's their biggest hurdle, is like, okay, yes, we can do all this and it won't be that hard for us to implement, but how do we do it in a way where the average person can get in and do everything seamlessly as if it wasn't decentralized and there was no NFTs? How do they bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think so. Whenever my second son was born, I played this game. It was called Order and Chaos, and it was like an iPhone MMORPG.
I played that for a little while.
Yeah, and so one of the things that the company was accused of is creating this high-end gear and selling it on third-party markets. And they basically would create these in-game players to like deliver the gear to you. And there was a whole like investigation, and people were like, I tied this to an employee, yada, yada, yada. Well, I think that the games like Blizzard, like if the World of Warcraft was still a popular game right now, I think Blizzard could easily create a system in their game that just says, you know what, every time you kill, for example, this dragon, it has a chance of dropping this sword, and every time it's going to be different stats. And it's always going to be great stats. Sometimes it's going to be ultimate stats. And they could make that aspect of the game right now and sell that. Now, where the decentralized version of this comes into play, and when you put it on chain, is you get that on-chain data. You get the verification of how this is unique. You can see the timestamp of when it was created. You can see that it's the only one ever created. And you kind of have that paper trail. And I think that is the part that is going to be the slowest to adopt from the company side, because if I'm a Blizzard and I know, shoot, maybe once a month I just create a super rare, sword, and I, here and there, whatever, you're making far more money. As soon as it becomes public knowledge, you don't really make as much. But yes, I think to your point is they're going to make tons still, because the secondary market, they're going to make transaction fees off of every
They would
sell.
make super bank, yeah.
Yeah, and in World of Warcraft or any of those type of games, there's usually a marketplace for players to sell items. So think about that. They could have their own NFT marketplace in the game. And my whole thing is why I think NFTs and gamification work so well is you can have people who play the game that don't even know that these are really NFTs. They're just using them as items. And maybe they don't have, like when they set up their account, they didn't set up a wallet. So maybe the NFT is just being held in their in-game Blizzard account or something. And it's still theirs, but unless they go in and claim it to their wallet, it's just an unclaimed item, and maybe it can't be sold on chain, but it can be sold in game, and someone would see like, oh snap, this has never been registered. I'm the first person to register. It's sweet.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot of possibilities there, but it is going to take it's going to take a lot to get to this stage in terms of, yes, regulation and adoption. And I think NFTs got a really bad start at the beginning.
I mean, I still think they're in a bad place. I think most people, like I said before, I think most people think like, oh, you got an NFT, you're just spending a bunch of money on a monkey picture. Like, I still think that's a stigma. But also, as a side note, with Activision and Blizzard, I don't know if you saw today, but Microsoft finally officially acquired both of them for $69 billion.
For real?
Yeah, it was a big lawsuit from a monopoly standpoint. Like Sony and people were fighting it. Like, how can Microsoft buy Activision and Blizzard? Because then Microsoft could potentially say, hey, any Activision Blizzard game not available on another platform, or charge another platform an extensive amount of money to be able to run that. I mean, Activision owns Call of Duty, so it's like, I wonder if the next Call of Duty game, they're going to either be go into Sony and be like, oh, you got to fork us a lot of money to be able to run this game on Sony, or they just say, hey, this is a Microsoft exclusive. So I'm kind of surprised, honestly. I think Sony sued them, or I don't know, there was some sort of lawsuit in general just on the monopoly side of things, and the courts offered or granted in favor of Microsoft and said, we're going to go ahead and approve it. And now they just acquired Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. I'm like, damn, that's crazy.
That is crazy. I can see Sony's frustration because, you know, if you think about it, it's like, you know, you could, you could make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox at that point and just be like, sorry, this is how it's going to be. And that's a huge title. I mean, they kind of have their own game. I mean, even Sony has their own games but they tend to, you know, I mean, really Nintendo's the only company that's ever been able to get away with it. Like, you can't play a Mario game on an Xbox or a PlayStation legally.
From like a big extent like that. The only one I can really think of off the top of my head for Sony is like Spider-Man. They own the rights to Spider-Man, and that game is exclusive to Xbox. I mean, Sony, you can't play it on Xbox.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, that's not to an extent of like a Mario. I mean, Spider-Man as a whole is big, but from a gaming standpoint compared to Mario, I mean, it's like pennies.
Well, I was thinking about Halo and like Gears of War. I think both of those are Xbox games.
They are, yeah. Xbox exclusives.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I wonder if Microsoft has any of the crypto decentralized side of things in mind for Activision and Blizzard. Because in my opinion, they're the front runners for
absolutely
NFT gamification. They're 100% the front. They have several different games on several different platforms that could gamify NFTs better than anybody else could. So I don't know if Microsoft sees that as part of their, you know, their buyout of this or not. But you know, if so, I think this is a wise decision by Microsoft, and I'm kind of surprised they won this case. But either way, I'm like, if they gamify an NFT and build NFTs into some of these core platforms that Blizzard and Activision have already built, that's gonna be a goddamn moneymaker.
I mean, if I was Activision and I was thinking, like, if they gave me the task to be like, hey, how are you going to revive, you know, maybe let's just look at Warcraft. I would say what we need to do is we need to go and we need to create and release a Warcraft OG, you know, whatever year it came out, 2000 version of this game. And we release all their epic weapons and all the elite gear that was dropped in the original version. We create NFTs for these. And we create a very limited amount, and either players have to earn that, or there's some way for people to earn that, and it's like, that's it, and that's done. And those can be traded, those can be sold. First off, you're going to capture an entire audience, an entire generation of people who played this game. They're going to want to go back and grind. They're going to want to do this. And the fact that you can have one-for-one very unique weapons and gear that nobody else can have, that goes back to the fashion statement of like Justin Bieber, or I mean, not just, well, yes, Justin Bieber, but Logan Paul wearing that, you know, I don't know what it was across his chest when he was. I know he wore Pokemon cards, but he also wore.
Yeah.
I think it was Bored Ape or
I think it was Bored
CryptoPunks.
Ape. Pretty sure it's Bored Ape.
But you kind of get that feel of it. It's like if I'm playing a game and I see somebody and I'm like, damn, they've got, Cloak of Flames. Oh my God, they only released 20 of these. This cost $500,000.
Yeah.
You're gonna know right off the bat, like, man, this person's got money. And I think that people want to let people know in crypto.
Status symbol.
Yes.
100%.
And having a game, having like a second life, I think is what it used to be called, where it's like, oh yeah, you could go watch movies with people you met on the internet. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You went to like fake restaurants and you just sat down and had conversations. And I was like, okay, that's kind of strange. But if people are willing to do that, I bet your ass, man, they're willing to play a big ass game and be rewarded for it.
I mean, I haven't played. I had like about maybe a 1 to 2 year run where I was like kind of big into World of Warcraft, and I was probably like, I don't even know what year that was. Probably like maybe like 2009 or like 2011, maybe 2011, 2013. I don't really remember, somewhere in that range. And I mean, I haven't played it ever since, but if they offered a decentralized NFT version of it, I would 100% get back on that shit. And I don't really know, I don't really follow World of Warcraft too much nowadays, but I would assume that it's, you're pouring yourself another little sippity-doo. Nice. I would assume World of Warcraft is still fairly popular. I know they've had a lot of expansions like Burning Crusade, and Burning Crusade was old. It's probably like 10 years old, but I mean, they've had several expansions since then as well. But I'm like, man, if they, were able to come out with, an NFT version of this, or even just like an OG version that had NFTs in it, and you could grind your way through it. I mean, dude, I'm not even that big of a fan of World of Warcraft, and I would get on it. So all the people that are big fans of it, especially those that are in crypto, I mean, it's double win for them. They would all be in it and be trying to grind it out and, get all the high-end loot that they could potentially sell and make money off of. Because then, kind of like you said, it almost becomes a job in a way. It's like you're playing a video game to get specific loot that could be sellable for a certain amount of money, and then you're actually getting paid for playing your game, which is really where, in my opinion, the play to earn side of things actually shines. Where currently, there's a lot of play to earn ish games out there, but they're all like
whack.
They're stupid ass games. They're dumb games that don't really make you any money, and they're grindy, and their graphics are terrible, and the gameplay's stupid, and like there's really not a whole lot out there that's actually legit. But if like a Blizzard or Activision came in and they, integrated that into one of their existing games or built out a new game that was somewhat similar to their old games, I think adoption would go through the roof.
Yeah, there needs to be another decade-long game, and it is like I'm terrible at these games, but the Dark Souls trilogy, or I don't even know, it might be longer than that, but I suck.
Can't even get past it. Yeah, I think I played the first like level or whatever, and I was
tutorial.
Like, I was in the tutorial. I was like, okay, well, fuck this game. I can't even get past the tutorial, so I'm out.
Yeah. But I mean, it has a huge audience. They create a lot of games for it. But yes, as soon as you find whatever the next most popular game is, eventually this is going to go somewhat to what we're talking about. And I think it's going to create digital economies in a fashion that is very much like what future crypto will be like. But yeah, there will be games where you can, earn life-changing money, and that's going to send a whole bunch of people to play that game. Like if I'm Blizzard and let's just say Blizzard makes, $75 billion in profit in the year. Having an item that they say, hey, look, this particular dragon in Dungeon A at some point this year is going to drop a 1-for-1 item that will never be dropped again, that has the potential of selling for millions and millions of dollars. Like,
that's gonna there's gonna be so many people that just flock to that.
Yeah.
Just it's similar to like a lottery ticket, you know, in a way. It's like so many people play the lottery, so many people buy scratch offs. All those kind of people are gonna be like, shit. Most of them might not even be gamers. They might be like, dude, I got a chance at getting something that could, you know, be worth $1 million.
And along the way,
in.
they're going to be hooking them in with these micro like NFTs. Like, oh, you know, to get to this dragon, you had to go through clear the whole dungeon. And it's like in that I made, you know, $5,400 off of these drops that I got. And it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy because these people aren't playing the game to play the game. They're playing the game to earn money. And so Blizzard has now created an entire workforce of people to play their game and pay monthly for it.
You know what just came to my mind, which actually is a goddamn genius idea at the same time, is as soon as you started saying all this, first thing that came to my mind, McDonald's Monopoly. Then I started thinking, people play that game primarily to try and make money.
Me.
Then you turn that into an NFT. Shit. McDonald's, I hope you're listening to this right now. I hope you take this idea. You need to turn McDonald's Monopoly into an NFT, and people can like scan a QR code or something like that and upload their different Monopoly pieces into an NFT. And then if they accumulate a certain amount, they either can redeem those for food, like some of the basic ones, or you can redeem it for money. But I think a lot of people play and go to McDonald's. Is a huge driving factor and a huge, I mean, I think that's their number one revenue generator whenever they do Monopoly every year. Is they make more money because there's more people that are going to McDonald's. Oh, I'm just going to get some food there because there's a chance I could lock in all these, you know, Park Place and Boardwalk and I could be a millionaire. And that is it's like the dangling that carrot in front of people's face of like, wait, you're telling me I can go pay $7 for my meal today and there's a possibility I could win $1 million? I'm in.
Yeah.
And even though the possibility is like 0.00001%, people are still all about it. And it's like, dude, you turn McDonald's Monopoly into an NFT, that's bank.
That's game over.
Yeah.
I remember it was like last year or maybe the year before. I don't know. It all blends together. But I told my wife and we went to McDonald's and I was ordering. I was like, yo, we got to upgrade the fries so we can get the Monopoly. I don't even eat McDonald's, but I was hooked because I knew as a kid, I'm like, man, we used to go and play the Monopoly all the fucking time, man.
Got to get the large fries so you get 2 pieces.
Yeah.
And pull off. Yeah.
Exactly. I think this is a great example, but like, yes, I think people are going to be hooked because they know that there is some value attached to it. And I think that's where that goes back to this Bored Ape Yacht Club comment is I think on the surface, they're trying to create that. I think that they found a lot of success with just the Bored Apes and they dangled the carrot of like, hey, there's going to be some sort of value if you hold it. And they didn't realize it was going to be as popular as it was. And I don't think that they can produce content quick enough, but they also have to have this balance of like, we got to produce this content at the right time. Can we do it in the middle of a crypto bear market? Probably not. We need to wait for a bullish market. There has to be some sort of value for holding your land and you got to get rewarded for something. If they can gamify that and they can turn into like a Decentraland, because Decentraland was like, look, you buy a plot of land and you can buy things to build on it. You can build places that other people will want to go to. Like I know Snoop Dogg was big in, I believe it was Decentraland where he had a like club that you could go to and he actually would DJ at his house.
Oh shit, for real?
Yeah, it would be like the music you're listening to is like live Snoop Dogg actual fucking mixing and mastering right there. You know, that's pretty fucking cool. And so people were there, you're listening to this music, but at the same time it's weird because when you're listening to this music, like, what are you doing? You sitting at your computer like, yeah. You're by yourself. And yeah, you might be chatting with people. Oh man, this is so cool. Yeah, I guess it can become an exclusive club and people.
I mean, it's kind of like those clubs that you go to nowadays where they have everybody wears headphones. Have you seen those?
No, what?
What? You haven't seen those?
Not at all.
Man, there's clubs now where you go and everybody has a pair of headphones on. They're all listening to the same song, but you're in a club together and it's silent in the club, but everybody's wearing wireless headphones and the same song's feeding in the club. So everybody's dancing at the club, but it's quiet, but everybody's got headphones on that's playing the same song. It's kind of interesting, but this kind of goes... I don't know.
I'm an old man, dude.
Seems
I don't
weird, man.
want to go to a club and hear loud music. If I could just look out and people were like,
Seems
like,
weird, man.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I've actually been to one. I mean, kind of when we went to the DeFi conference, that was really though similar, where everybody was wearing headphones for the conference, but it's not a club aspect. But anyways, this brings me to my point of like kind of going all the way back to this Bored Ape thing, and like the dilution that I think happens through adding all these things is kind of similar to my idea with this McDonald's monopoly. I mean, let's just hypothetically say, I don't know how many spaces there are on Monopoly. Let's just say there's like 32 spaces on Monopoly, on a Monopoly board. So you've got 32 spots, and maybe you need 3 of a specific one. Obviously, the way McDonald's does it is they essentially make 2 of them readily available, like everybody gets 2, and then you're like, fuck man, I'm about to get one more, I'm about to be rich. But that one more is like 0.01% or 0.001% of anybody getting it. But if the Monopoly board, instead of was 32 slots, was 64 slots, well, now you're sitting there like, well, my chances are even lower. And then if it goes to from 64 to 128, you're like, well, now my odds are even lower. And each time that splits, your odds essentially of winning go down, which means your pieces become less valuable. And that's essentially my whole argument with Bored Ape Yacht Club is once you dilute Bored Apes and you go to Mutant Apes, and then you dilute Mutant Apes and you go to dogs, and then you dilute that and go to land, each time you do that, each piece of that devalues as you go along, rather than just having one core product. I understand what you're saying of like Yuga Labs definitely makes more money by having each one of those pieces. And essentially, more than likely, I don't know if it maybe not. More than likely, though, the holders make more money because they can sell those each individual pieces. But my argument is that the original Bored Ape may be worth more money than what you sold your Mutant Ape and your dog and your land for that you got for free. So that's my kind of thought on that.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I'm gonna take that exact same scenario. Let's say you get let's say we're playing Monopoly, right? And let's say more people have the opportunity to get Monopoly. Let's say I've got that St. James Place, New York Avenue, the oranges, basically right before free parking. I think it's Tennessee Avenue, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Let's say I get a monopoly on that. Now, once I get a monopoly, let's say a random generator happens and it creates a special, monopoly thing, and whatever the reward is for that monopoly, that's what the user gets, and it could sell it. So, for example, like maybe it's like, boom, I get a monopoly, and it's like you've got. You earned a greenhouse, and maybe as a greenhouse, it's like I get this prize, a free French fry. Maybe that's the common, but then maybe it goes all the way up to like you got a Canary Hotel, and that gets you a fucking Lamborghini, or whatever. And you could gamify that even further, or it's like, okay, yes, it is difficult to get the monopoly. Like, let's say everybody can get Tennessee and St. James, but to get to New York, it's like you got to really go to McDonald's every day or get extremely lucky. Let's say you do get that monopoly. Now there's so many different levels to that even, and it could still reward someone with, whatever that high-end prize is by getting that final 1-for-1, grand prize or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good debate to have. I would be interested. I mean, there's no way to really find this out, but I would be interested to know if Bored Ape didn't release anything else except for the Bored Apes, would their current value be, and would it be more than if you held a Bored Ape and sold your Mutant Ape, your dog, your serum, your land combined? Would those things be more valuable than what the potential value of a Bored Ape would be if there was no other product after Bored Ape? It's an interesting argument. I personally think the exclusivity and the allure and appeal of just that's the only way you can get into Bored Ape Yacht Club could potentially outvalue Mutant Apes and all the lines of things. But I mean, there's no real way to tell, but it's an interesting argument to have.
Yeah. I mean, you can tie NFTs into real world assets too that have created this exclusivity club. Like there is a special wine that essentially was like, look, we're going to do an NFT drop. If you are able to mint one of our NFTs, you will get an exclusive bottle of this batch of wine. And of course, it sold out. Everybody was sent that bottle of wine. That bottle of wine had value. The NFT had value. So for wine enthusiasts, they were like, holy shit, I got something that very few people got. And then for the collectors and flippers, they were able to flip two things for one. And then you kind of see the same thing. I know like Adidas and Prada kind of teamed together to create a line of NFTs that if you had the NFT, you were then eligible to buy a specific line of clothes. So I think it was clothes, shoes, accessories, all of that. But you could only buy it if you were an NFT holder. So it provides a little bit of utility. It's like, yes, okay. Like for example, if I know Bored Ape partnered with, I can't remember. They had
Adidas.
Was it Adidas?
Pretty sure it was Adidas.
Yeah, because there was like a clothing line.
Yep,
it was
Adidas for sure.
Yeah, and if you had the NFT, you got access to buy the clothing. And it's like, obviously, the people who really rocked the clothings were the celebrities. And it's like, as a person that, sits on the sidelines, like, man, I want that fucking shirt. It just gives you that more of a like, I got to get a Bored Ape.
Yeah.
It just adds to that like FOMO. And
I mean, I think that's a good way of like building a brand. I mean, I know I think I sent this to you probably like a year ago now, but I don't know if you remember, but you had to buy an NFT to be able to pre-order a true to life drivable DeLorean. Yeah. And I'm like, that kind of stuff, in my opinion, is like, that's the future of NFTs, in my opinion, where I'm like, I can get bullish on that kind of stuff. I can get bullish on being able to buy an NFT to potentially gain access to a party or a exclusive product or something like that. Even I think we threw out the idea, I don't think they ever did this, but I'm like, man, when Black Friday comes around, if you had to buy an NFT from like Best Buy to be able to get in line to a certain point to be able to buy a specific product that's on a discount, that would be legit. We've talked about it multiple times about medical records and stuff like that, and how NFTs could be, you could hold an NFT that is your medical record, and then you'd be able to go to whatever doctor's office, or any place like that, share your NFT, they can pull up your records, and you have all that shit stored, decentralized, in your own wallet or wherever you want to store it, whatnot. Like, that is where, that in my opinion, like I've said before, the past and the present of NFTs, it's all bullshit in my opinion. It's all trash. You're not going to make money. Don't even waste your time on it. The future of NFTs, in terms of using it as a tangible ticket or a physical asset, we've talked about it before about real estate as well, using it for real estate, using it for medical, using it for products, using it for gamification, all those areas. In my opinion, I'm extremely bullish on NFTs. So absolutely. I'm not a super hater on NFTs in the long term. I think over time, it's going to become something that's valuable. But in its current state, I really don't believe 95% of people that are invested in NFTs, they're all losing money.
I would agree that if you were to go and buy a Bored Ape right now or a CryptoPunks, you're taking a massive risk.
Huge risk.
And it's not going to be the same as if you were like, man, this is a pretty cool picture. I'm going to buy this for $15. And it happened to turn out to be worth $1.7 million.
See, I can get behind that, in my opinion. Like, if I see a piece of art it's dependent on the price.
Yeah.
But if I see a piece of art that is an NFT that I'm like, damn, that's pretty cool, and it's relatively cheap, I would not hesitate to buy it. But I wouldn't necessarily be buying it in the anticipation of generating money off of it. I would just buy it because I'm like, this is a unique piece of art. I really like it, and I'd like to own it myself and be the sole owner of this product. But it would have to be relatively low price. Like, I'm talking like probably under like $200 maximum. I don't think I'd go anywhere higher than that. And it would be in anticipation of me just owning that piece, and it would be my piece solely. And I don't like, if it goes up, great. If it doesn't go up, I'm going to hold it anyway. So it is what it is. But outside of that, I really can't get behind the NFT scene. The only people that I've ever seen that actually make money off it are the people that mint an NFT and they sell that NFT within 24 hours after mint. It's really the only way is just flipping NFTs, and selling the hype right after the mint. But outside of that, if you're going to be a long-term holder of NFTs and it's just an art piece with nothing else attached to it, I can almost guarantee you're losing money.
Yeah, you better love that shit.
Yeah. If you're just buying it solely for the art and you don't plan on selling it, I mean, that's fine. More power to you. I don't mind doing that myself. But if you're planning on buying it in the hopes of, 3, 6, 12 months from now, you're going to make money off of it. Hate to break it to you, but you're not going to make money off of it.
Yeah, sadly. I mean, I know that we have explored like digital identities in terms of like driver's license being an NFT. I mean, these are things that are for sure going to happen. I mean, even some states have created digital licenses that you can save to your wallet on your iPhone. And it's like, some people argue, it's like, well, why does that need to be an NFT? And it's just like, well, okay, it just helps secure it down a little bit further, helps it make it a little bit harder to manipulate, and it's a little bit more secure. And I think as blockchain technology becomes more popular, I think we will see more companies like that. But yes, real estate is one of the biggest things for, shareable values. I know that we saw the DAO that tried to buy the Declaration of Independence, or one of the copies.
Yeah, I remember that.
There's been a lot of things like that where it's like, hey, this museum is going to auction off this piece and you can be a part owner of this vase, and it's like
I did that with a Banksy art,
oh yeah,
piece of art.
Shit,
yeah.
I forgot you got the wide screen, right?
Yeah, dude. It's a sore spot, man.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, they took a Banksy, a very popular, I don't even remember what it was. I don't know much about art, but took a Banksy piece of art and they burned the actual piece of art, and they took the digital version of it, broke it up into 10,000 pieces of the art, and auctioned it off. And I think I spent maybe $1,000, maybe like $1,250 on this piece of art, and to get one 1/10,000th of a Banksy piece.
It was all white.
And the piece I got was just a blank white background piece of the art, of the piece of art. And it was basically the worst possible piece out of all 10,000 pieces that I could have gotten. And then I'm pretty sure I sold it for like $300. So that was a nice, probably about an $800 loss on that. But yeah, that was fun. It's part of the reason why I hate NFTs.
I forgot about that. I mean, it's kind of a cool concept, Banksy, like, whomever burned their art piece, they do these like, social stunts, and it's perfect for the NFT world, but I totally forgot about that. And yeah, I remember when you showed me, I was like, what the fuck is this?
I basically bought a blank white square for $1,200. It was great.
Oh my God. Oh, good times, man. Good fucking times. But
yeah, that's good stuff.
It is a point. Like, like there are museum pieces, and there are people that like, 5,000 people will go in and they'll buy this vase, and it's like you own a little bit of it. And I kind of get certain people who like are very into that type of thing. This sounds like a great idea. To me, it's like, what are you doing here? But I guess what the hope is like, okay, for example, if you buy a copy of the Declaration of Independence, right? Like this is going to increase in value. And if the value of that is split up amongst 1,000 people, it's like, hopefully your 1/1000th of a piece will increase in value as well. And same with the Banksy portrait. I mean, somebody had to have the white space. It just was unfortunate.
Unfortunately, it was me.
Oh my God. But I know that there's other big companies, Coca-Cola, they did this huge push for like, they created some NFTs and donated to charity.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Lamborghini, they blew up a Lamborghini, and then had a professional photographer there while they blew it up, and took pictures of all of it, and they turned some of those into exclusive NFTs. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that if you owned a Lamborghini, if you were a Lamborghini customer, you got access to purchase the NFTs first.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And, Nike, they have the whole digital sneaker store, which
Seen that, yeah.
to me, that's like,
A little gimmicky.
yeah, it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
That's the stuff that gets in weird. Time Magazine did timepieces, which is like very unique, magazine covers and things. And I'm like, I can,
Not bad.
yeah, I can get behind that a little bit because you can still print it up at the end of the day and you can make, or even have a digital frame and you can showcase it. A digital sneaker though.
I get it to an extent. In my opinion, like, if I'm an NFT person, I would just look at, like, I would even Google this of, like, what are the top collectibles that most people collect?
Not sure.
And then whatever that is, if you're able to make that digitally and turn it into an NFT project, could potentially be worthwhile. I mean, like, kind of like you said, like, magazines or something, older magazines are something that is a collectible item. I mean, stamps are collectible. I don't necessarily know from a legal standpoint how you do NFTs with that. I'm thinking like Hot Wheels, stuff like that.
Oh, they did they had a stamp collection, actually, an NFT stamp collection.
Not surprised, but yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff is the stuff that I would go after if I was looking to create an NFT project. I would be like, what are the most popular physical collectibles and how well could I convert them digitally? And then I would build off of that idea.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think too, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I think if you own that NFT, like if I own CryptoPunk 125, I have the rights to CryptoPunk 125. I could make shirts. I could make art. I know that we purchased a Bored Ape Yacht Club from a gallery, Bottleneck Gallery, and it's like they were able to license that ape out, and whether that's maybe one of their employees had that, the company bought it for that specific reason, or if they just reached out to this person and was like, hey, we'll pay you X amount of money to be able to license. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is actually true. Like if I do buy, a certain ape, like, do I fully own that? Could I create my entire business on that?
For the most part, my understanding is yes. It's dependent on the owner of the project, I guess, if they want to grant you access to it. Like, I went through this with Dapper Dinos. I owned 3 or 4 Dapper Dinos, and they were a fairly decent sized staple project, probably like a top 25, top 50 NFT project for a while. I don't really know where they stand now. I mean, I still own mine. That's one of my few NFT holdings that I'm just kind of rolling with right now. I'm really not down that much on those, but I think I bought them at like 0.2 ETH, and I think most of the floor is like 0.08, 0.1 ETH, so it's not like terrible, but I went through this process because I wanted to create a couple shirts with my Dapper Dinos on them, and like I would go to the shirt company and they would be like, you need legal rights to be able to do this, and I was able to reach out to Dapper Dinos, and they were like, they sent me like a consent form basically saying that, like, essentially I own that image because I'm the owner of it until I'm no longer the owner of it. The weird caveat goes into, like, let's say I get that shirt printed up and I print it up and then I sell my dino, then it's like, okay, technically I don't own it anymore, so it's like wearing that and having that is kind of like copyright infringement. So I don't really know the gray area of that side of things, but my understanding is that if you pay for and buy an NFT, you are the owner of that art at that point in time, and you can kind of do freely whatever you want. More than likely, your best bet is to obviously like check in with the creators of that to make sure that that's the case. But that's what I did, just to make sure I had clearance for it. But that's my understanding for most NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a club owner, I'm going to purchase a Bored Ape Yacht Club. First off, I'm going to purchase an ape of some sort, and I'm going to blow that motherfucker up so large and hang that shit on my wall so everybody walks in and they see, oh shit, because those apes are culturally like accepted.
For sure. Yeah.
Outside of crypto, inside of crypto. And I think that's where NFTs hold that value, is like, if you hit on the right marker, you can be successful outside of the crypto people and you can catch this wave. And I think obviously the easiest path there is through celebrities, people like Justin Bieber being like, oh, look at this monkey I bought. This shit's tight. And you're like, fuck, I want that monkey. I want a monkey like it.
Yep.
And, a lot of people probably got into crypto just based off of that stupid, dumb fact. And as you get more and more celebrities and more influencing, individuals to get people to purchase these products, I think it's going to hold, larger weight, but only time will tell. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with BAYC and CryptoPunks and all of these NFT projects, especially as time goes on. But, in the meantime, I think our message is pretty clear. Like, you probably don't want to buy and invest in these.
No. Yeah. I'm bullish on the future of NFTs and what they could be, whether that's integration in games, whether that's integration in healthcare, integration in real estate, wherever it may be. But in its current present form, I would not recommend buying into anything NFT based. I think you're unless you're going into it with the expectation of losing money, I mean, I guess do what you will then at that point, but you're probably going to lose money if you invest in NFTs right now. However, like I said, in the future, I'm fairly bullish on it. I think we're probably a couple years out from potential adoption and, these different opportunities presenting themselves. But I do feel confident in the future of NFTs being an actual real player and not just going to the wayside. But in its current form, I won't spend a dime on any of them.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I know we've been, this ended up being a little bit longer of an episode.
I'm kind of surprised. Yeah. I really, neither one of us are like super duper well-versed in NFTs. We're in the crypto space and we've dabbled in NFTs a little bit, but I'm kind of surprised we went as in-depth as we did, but turned out pretty good.
Absolutely. And again, if you'd like to, you can follow the crumbs on our socials at Baking Profits, at Bread Bites, at The Bread Maker, at DeFi Donut. And we'll be sure to catch you next time. And hopefully, you might be able to catch a little Lukenbach, maybe.
I would recommend Heaven's Door if you haven't had it. That's what we had last time. That was a way better of a whiskey, but we'll see what we have next episode.
Yeah. Until next time, take care, people.
Later.